Set against the backdrop of Florida's sunny skies, Busch Gardens Tampa has grown from a simple brewery tour into a destination for extreme thrills, African atmosphere, and unforgettable animal experiences. Over the decades, the park has continually transformed, adding new adventures while quietly retiring others. From lost family rides and unique experiments to looping coasters and once beloved staples, each tells a story of change and evolution. Join us as we look back at 10 vanished attractions that helped shape the history of Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. In 1976, Busch Gardens Tampa made a bold move that would change the park forever. That summer, the park unveiled Python, its very first roller coaster, and the first one in Florida to send guests upside down. At a time when modern inversions were still brand new to the theme park world, Python was a groundbreaking addition that instantly put Busch Gardens on the thrill ride map. Python was built by Arrow Development, the company behind many of the era's most iconic steel coasters. It was a clone of the corkscrew model, first introduced at Knott's Berry Farm in California, which just a year earlier had stunned riders as the world's first modern inverting roller coaster. Bringing that innovation to Florida was a major milestone, and Busch Gardens promoted Python as the star of a $7.6 million expansion of its Stanleyville area. The ride cost $2 million to build, and its statistics were impressive for the time. Python reached a height of 72 feet, a top speed of 40 miles per hour, and stretched just over 1,200 feet in length. Riders boarded black and yellow trains and were secured with over-the-shoulder restraints. The track, painted bright yellow, stood out against the surrounding tropical landscape. From the station, the train climbed a lift hill, banked to the right and plunged down a 50-foot drop. At the bottom, it reached full speed, before rising again into a sweeping curve. Then came the ride's signature element, back-to-back corkscrews, that flipped passengers upside down twice in quick succession. A final turn brought the train into the brakes, completing the ride in just about a minute. Short, but unlike anything else in Florida at the time. The ride quickly became a hit, and Python proved to be an enduring success. Attendance at Busch Gardens jumped more than 12% in July 1976 compared to the previous year, and the coaster was credited as one of the park's biggest new draws. Its addition also set the stage for Busch Gardens Tampa to grow into a true thrill park, paving the way for more roller coasters in coming years. Python remained a familiar sight at the park as the surrounding Stanleyville area evolved into the Congo section, with new rides like the Congo River Rapids nearby. By the turn of the millennium, Python was no longer the star attraction it once was, but it still held nostalgic appeal for long-time visitors. For many, it had been their first upside-down coaster. In 2006, after 30 years of operation, Busch Gardens filed permits for a major redevelopment of the Congo section. Python was announced as closing permanently, and on October 31st, the coaster gave its final rides. Shortly after, it was dismantled, and its trains were sent north to Busch Gardens Williamsburg to be used as spare parts for Loch Ness Monster, another Arrow looping coaster. The site of Python was soon transformed. Its removal cleared the way for Jungala in 2008, a new family-focused area that featured animal habitats and play structures. While that expansion has since changed again, Python's legacy lives on as the ride that brought inversions and modern coaster thrills to Busch Gardens Tampa. When Busch Gardens Tampa opened its suspended monorail in 1966, it offered something very few parks in the world could match: the chance to glide quietly above free-roaming herds of African wildlife. The Veldt Monorail, as it was named, was a 1 1/3 mile system. It was one of the park's earliest landmark attractions, and for more than 3 decades it provided guests with a serene safari through the heart of the African plain. Manufactured by Arrow Development, the original monorail trains were distinctive in appearance. Each boxy red and white car carried the Anheuser-Busch Eagle, proudly emblazoned on its side, and beneath the bodywork, the trains were powered by a unique system. 2 propane engines on each train generated the electricity needed for the motors. Passengers rode in enclosed cabins as they glided 6 miles per hour above the habitats, filled with giraffes, antelopes, ostriches, and other species that in many cases were rare to see outside of Africa. For just $1.50, half price for children, guests could embark on a 10 to 12-minute loop across the wild animal kingdom. It was a calm, educational counterpart to the thrill rides that began appearing elsewhere in the park. By the mid-1980s, the system was in need of modernisation. After more than 2 decades of service, the monorail closed in 1987 for a major overhaul. When it reopened in February 1988, it looked and operated like a brand new attraction. The Swiss company Intermin had supplied 6 sleek new trains, each capable of carrying 72 passengers. The trains were now powered by electrical bus bars fitted along the overhead track, eliminating the need for onboard engines, while deeply tinted windows and updated air conditioning made the experience far more comfortable in the Florida sun. The system endured for another decade. In July 1997, the park opened the Edge of Africa, a walk-through animal exhibit that brought guests even closer to the wildlife. The monorail was realigned to accommodate the new area, but it proved to be only a temporary reprieve. In 1999, after 33 years of operation, the Veldt Monorail carried its last passengers. After its closure, the track and trains were dismantled, and the station was eventually repurposed as the queue and boarding area for Cheetah Hunt, Busch Gardens' triple-launch roller coaster that opened in 2011. Interestingly, the monorail itself didn't simply disappear. Around 2000, the system was sold to Kennywood Amusement Park in Pennsylvania, which reportedly considered using it to connect its hillside parking lots to the park across the road. The plan never materialised, and the monorail will most likely never operate again. For long-time visitors, the Veldt Monorail is remembered as more than just transportation. It was one of Busch Gardens' earliest attempts to immerse guests in the world of animals they came to see, and for more than 3 decades, it provided unforgettable views of the Serengeti Plain. Busch Gardens' journey into simulator attractions began in the early 1990s, following a wave of motion simulator rides sweeping the theme park industry. Inspired by the success of a similar attraction in Williamsburg, Busch Gardens sought to offer a story-driven adventure that could complement its growing lineup of thrill rides. The ride chosen would be Questor, which opened in May 1991. Questor was a fantasy-inspired simulator experience that combined imaginative storytelling with motion-based thrills. Guests boarded massive simulators as the eccentric inventor, Sir Edison Fitzwillie, guided them through a fantastical world, racing against time to retrieve the mysterious Crystal of Zed. The ride carried visitors through caverns, waterfalls, and underwater passages. The Tampa installation was largely identical to its Busch Gardens Williamsburg counterpart, with just a few thematic changes. Although popular initially, the ride began to feel dated as the park expanded its roster of high-profile coasters, including Coomba in 1993 and the nearby Montu in 1996. By the late 1990s, Busch Gardens was ready for a refresh. The result was Akbar's Adventure Tours, which opened in May 1998, and better fit the Egypt section of the park. The ride retained the Reflectome-built motion simulator platform, but introduced a new theme, comedic tone, and celebrities. Martin Short starred as Akbar, a hapless tour guide whose attempts to run a failing Egyptian excursion quickly spiral into chaos. The attraction was fully themed, from the queue to the ride itself. The ride film combined live-action performances, location footage from Morocco, and CGI-enhanced sequences. Reflectone upgraded the simulator with 2 additional motion axes, improved projection, and environmental effects, heightening the sense of immersion. Once on board Akbar's self-made tour vehicle, riders careened through bustling marketplaces, crashed into the giant Sphinx, navigated booby-trapped tombs, and encountered jump scares from mummies and a giant snake. Despite its celebrated arrival, Akbar's adventure tour struggled to maintain attention. Guests flocked to the park's coasters, and maintenance challenges arose, after Reflectone went out of business not long after the ride debuted. By 2002, the attraction operated only seasonally, with its building repurposed for Busch Gardens' Halloween event, Howlo Scream, hosting a number of haunted houses. The ride was quietly closed and dismantled in 2007, less than a decade after it opened. In May 2001, Busch Gardens Tampa debuted Rhino Rally, one of the most ambitious attractions the park had ever attempted. Billed as part safari, part thrill ride, it promised something entirely new. A hybrid adventure that put guests up close to live animals before plunging them into a surprising river finale. The concept was developed with Dutch manufacturer Vekoma, and it would be the only ride of its kind ever built. Guests boarded oversized off-road Land Rovers, each holding up to 18 passengers. One rider was chosen as the navigator, seated alongside the driver, and asked to help guide the truck by spotting coloured markers along the route. At first, Rhino Rally looked like Busch Gardens' answer to Disney's Kilimanjaro safaris, a bumpy off-road journey through the Serengeti habitat. Vehicles bounced and swayed over uneven ground, passing antelope, elephants and rhinos at remarkably close range. But unlike Disney's more straightforward animal tour, Rhino Rally had a twist. Near the halfway point, the truck approached a fork in the road. The navigator was asked to choose between left or right. No matter the choice, the driver turned left, towards the ride's signature sequence. The vehicle rolled onto a pontoon bridge at the edge of a waterfall. Suddenly, the bridge broke free, sending the Jeep and its passengers floating down a raging river. The driver panicked, blaming the navigator for the wrong choice. As water surged around the vehicle, it spun and drifted through the torrent, finally regaining solid ground. Behind the scenes, this was a highly complex effect. The floating bridge was actually mounted on a track under the water, pulled along by a cable system. Each vehicle was secured in place with hidden clamps, creating the convincing illusion that the Jeep itself was adrift. In its original form, the scene even included a sudden flash flood effect that sent torrents of water crashing down, heightening the chaos. The complete ride lasted about 8 minutes and was hugely popular in its first years, and wait times quickly became some of the longest in the park. But despite its popularity, the attraction was plagued with problems. The water finale was notoriously unreliable, and whenever it broke down, the ride would bypass it entirely, leaving guests with only the safari section. Over time, the problems mounted. The flood effect was quietly removed, and in May 2010, the entire water portion was permanently closed. This made room for construction of the launch coaster Cheetah Hunt, which used part of the river course for its layout. With that change, Rhino Rally was shortened, now only including the safari portion. The attraction limped along in its reduced form for 5 more years. It was often closed for maintenance, and in January 2015, Busch Gardens confirmed that Rhino Rally was gone for good. Its queue area would later be redeveloped into the home of Serengeti Flyer, while Cheetah Hunt remains one of the park's signature rides. In the summer of 1989, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay was preparing to celebrate a milestone, its 30th anniversary. To mark the occasion, the park introduced several new additions, including a stable for the famous Clydesdales, and even a pair of koalas on loan from the San Diego Zoo. But the headlining attraction that year was a brand new water ride designed to make a splash, Tanganyika Tidal Wave. The ride replaced the African Queen boat ride, which had operated since 1973. Much like Disney's Jungle Cruise, the African Queen featured small riverboats piloted by live guides. Guests floated along through the Congo section of the park, past detailed set pieces, enjoying a tranquil experience that tied into Busch Gardens' growing emphasis on African theming. But as the 1980s wore on, thrill rides became the big draw for theme parks across Florida. Busch Gardens, which had already found success with coasters like Python and Scorpion, decided it was time to turn the African Queen into something taller, wetter, and far more thrilling. On June 15, 1989, Tanganyika Tidal Wave officially opened in the Congo area. Designed by Aerodynamics, the ride stretched 1,300 feet, carrying guests in large 20-passenger boats. Much of the original African Queen's waterway and rockwork was retained, with the new attraction enhancing the lush landscaping, waterfalls and jungle theming to set the stage for its dramatic finale. For the first several minutes, riders floated peacefully along the winding channel, passing rock canyons and themed structures that hinted at the area's backstory. Then came the real thrill, a double-dip drop, plunging the boat down 55 feet into a shallow lake. The impact sent up a towering wall of water that soaked not only riders, but also spectators on the bridge nearby. The ride was an instant hit, particularly during Florida's hot and humid summers. Newspaper coverage at the time described the ending in simple terms: wet, soaking wet. Guests who didn't want to ride could stand on the bridge behind glass walls, watching friends and family take the plunge, while staying mostly dry themselves. At its debut, the park heavily promoted Tanganyika Tidal Wave, predicting it would become a crowd favourite. For many families, it was the perfect balance to the park's growing lineup of coasters, offering a fun, family-friendly thrill with a guaranteed cool-down. Through the 1990s and 2000s, Tanganyika Tidal Wave remained a reliable staple of the park. Its blend of themed environment and a big dramatic finish gave it broad appeal, and it complemented other Congo area attractions like Kumba and Congo River Rapids. But as the years passed, the ride's popularity began to wane. By the mid-2010s, the large boats and complex water systems had become increasingly expensive to maintain, while ridership dropped compared to the park's newer thrill coasters. On April 10, 2016, Busch Gardens closed Tanganyika Tidal Wave after 27 years of operation. For a time, the ride stood dormant, its troughs and boats left in place, while the park considered future plans. By 2018, demolition of the attraction began, clearing the way for something new. The site would soon be transformed into the home of Tigris, a Premier Rides Skyrocket 2 coaster that opened in 2019. Some pieces of the old water ride remain today, sections of rockwork and even the old station building, serving as a subtle reminder of the splashdown that once soaked generations of guests. When Busch Gardens Tampa Bay closed its on-site brewery in 1995, it opened up a prime piece of real estate in the centre of the park. For decades, the brewery had been a cornerstone of the park, producing hundreds of thousands of barrels of beer each year and offering tours from the park's opening in 1959. Its closure freed up approximately 8 acres, setting the stage for one of the park's most ambitious and memorable projects, Gwazi, a dueling wooden roller coaster that would dominate the park's skyline for more than a decade. Development began in earnest in July 1998, with Busch Gardens announcing that they would build not one, but 2 intertwined wooden coasters, each with its own track, Lion and Tiger. The coaster's name came from a mythical African creature, with the body of a lion and the head of a tiger, symbolising the dual tracks of the ride. The design was entrusted to relatively new company Great Coasters International. The goal was to blend traditional wooden coaster thrills with a racing element, creating a ride that would feel alive, chaotic and exhilarating at every turn. Construction was an immense undertaking. Over 1.25 million board feet of southern yellow pine were used, with the structure engineered to withstand winds of up to 100 miles per hour. By June 1999, the coasters were ready to open, featuring 6 flybys where the trains would pass each other at high speed, creating the illusion of near collisions. Both sides ascended to 105 feet, dropping 91 feet to reach speeds of 51 miles per hour, with each side having subtle variations, keeping riders guessing which track would overtake the other at any moment. Upon its opening on June 18, 1999, Gwazi was praised by riders. Guests were immediately struck by the sensation of the intertwined tracks, the airtime over its sweeping hills, and the thrilling near misses with the opposing train. The coaster quickly became a staple attraction, appealing to both wooden coaster enthusiasts and families seeking an unforgettable ride. However, wooden coasters came with challenges, especially in Florida's climate. Over time, Gwazi developed a reputation for a rough ride, despite ongoing maintenance. The Lion side was retracked in 2009, followed by the Tiger side in 2010. And new GCI Millennium Flyer trains were installed in 2011 to improve comfort and reliability. Still, rising maintenance costs and declining ridership signalled that the ride's days were numbered. The Tiger side closed in 2012, and by 2015 the Lion side followed. Its trains and parts were repurposed for other coasters across SeaWorld parks, and the structure sat dormant as the park considered options for the prime central plot. The next move came in 2019, when Busch Gardens announced Iron Gwazi, a complete hybrid transformation by Rocky Mountain Construction, creating a coaster with an altered layout, ramping up the intensity. Opening in 2022, the new ride received rave reviews from critics and fans alike, with Iron Gwazi ensuring the thrills inspired by the Lion and Tiger track continue to echo through the park today. In 1984, Busch Gardens Tampa introduced a new thrill ride to its Timbuktu section. Known as Phoenix, it was an intermin looping starship, a giant swinging ship that didn't just rock back and forth, but carried riders upside down in full 360-degree loops. Themed as an Egyptian cargo ship, Phoenix stood out immediately. Its long gondola was designed with rows of seats facing inward, so that riders sat face to face as the lap bar and over-the-shoulder restraints pressed tightly against their chests. The ride started gentle enough, with small swings back and forth, but before long the ship gained momentum, each arc carrying riders higher, until suddenly it flipped over the top. At the peak of the swing, riders found themselves suspended some 60 feet in the air, held upside down for just a moment before the ship completed its loop. The cycle repeated again and again, giving a truly disorienting experience. When it debuted in June of 1984, Phoenix was described as both exhilarating and terrifying. One local reporter jokingly asked why he had boarded in the first place. For Busch Gardens, it was another successful thrill addition, joining Python and Scorpion in offering high adrenaline experiences to complement the park's water rides and animal attractions. For more than 3 decades, Phoenix remained a staple of Timbuktu. Its placement helped anchor the land's lineup of family and thrill rides. By 2018, however, Phoenix had reached the end of its operational life. The ride closed that year, but unusually, it wasn't removed right away. Instead, the ship stood silently in its spot for several years. In early 2022, it was even spotted testing again, sparking rumours that Phoenix might make a comeback. But by December of that year, its fate was sealed, and the ride was dismantled after 38 years in the park. Not long after, the site was cleared to make room for a new headliner. In 2024, Busch Gardens opened Phoenix Rising, a family-friendly inverted roller coaster that borrowed the ship's name but offered an entirely new experience. Though the original Phoenix has vanished, for nearly 4 decades, it stood as one of Timbuktu's most daring attractions. A ride that challenged guests to stare fear in the face, quite literally, as they looped again and again through the Florida sky. Busch Gardens' 2008 Jungala expansion was added in an area that was once home to the roller coaster Python, blending elaborate animal habitats with family-focused attractions. Among its lineup was one of the most unusual rides the park ever offered, a small-scale zip line called Jungle Flyers. Unlike the high-thrill zip lines, Jungle Flyers was designed for kids and younger guests. Riders sat in single-person vehicles themed like miniature hang gliders. Suspended from overhead cables, the ride offered 3 different flight patterns, each one carrying passengers up to 50 feet in the air. The station was cleverly engineered. The wire at the loading platform would raise and lower, allowing the vehicle to launch forward and eventually glide back to where it began. From above, riders could take in views of Jungala's lush setting, as well as the animal exhibits woven into the expansion. The gibbon habitat in particular offered a memorable backdrop, with some of the ride paths passing directly over it. This made jungle flyers feel part of the overall area. Still, the experience had its problems. With only 3 sets of 2 wires, capacity was limited. Guests waiting while just a handful of riders were sent out at a time. The ride's short pendulum-like motion, gliding forward before drifting back to the station, was gentle, but didn't quite deliver the adrenaline rush some guests expected from a zip line. For others, though, it was part of the draw, making it approachable for younger visitors. Jungala itself was marketed as a place for exploration, complete with animal encounters and interactive play areas. Jungle flyers fit neatly into that philosophy, offering kids the chance to feel like they were soaring through the treetops alongside the animals. It wasn't a headline attraction, but it was something different, and for families, it became a memorable part of the land. The ride lasted a decade before closing quietly in 2018. Unlike larger, more high-profile attractions, Jungle Flyers slipped into obscurity, remembered mainly by those who experienced it firsthand. Yet traces of the attraction remain. When the area reopened as Wild Oasis, portions of the ride structure could still be spotted, a subtle reminder of this often overlooked experience. In 2004, Busch Gardens Tampa added a compact new coaster to its lineup. Known as Cheetah Chase, the ride was a family-friendly wild mouse coaster that offered quick turns, sharp drops, and a very different experience compared to the park's larger thrills. Before it became a family coaster in Tampa, the coaster had already lived another life in Virginia. The ride was originally built in 1996 at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, where it opened as Wild Izzy. The name tied into Busch Gardens' sponsorship of the 1996 Summer Olympics. The coaster itself was a Mack Rides Wild Mouse, a compact steel roller coaster model known for its sharp hairpin turns and quick drops. At Williamsburg, Wild Izzy operated for just 1 season under its Olympic branding. In 1997, with the Games over, it was renamed Wild Mouse and given a European theme more in line with the park's Oktoberfest section. The ride operated there before closing in 2003 to make way for the dark ride Curse of Darkcastle. Instead of being scrapped, the coaster was disassembled and shipped to Florida, where it re-emerged at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay in early 2004. Opening on February 28th, it was renamed Cheetah Chase and slotted into the Timbuktu section of the park. Its arrival was quiet, with little fanfare, but it provided a welcome family-friendly coaster option, replacing the retired Crazy Camel flat ride. The layout remained the same, a quick ascent up a short lift hill, followed by a zigzagging series of hairpin turns, tight drops, and quick curves, packed into a compact footprint. Each car seated 4 riders, 2 by 2, and the entire cycle lasted just about 2 minutes. Despite its small size, the ride delivered exactly what Wild Mouse coasters are designed for. Deceptively sharp turns and sudden drops that feel wilder than they look. In 2011, the ride received a name change. Busch Gardens was preparing to debut Cheetah Hunt, a massive Intamin launch coaster that sprawled across the park's Serengeti plain. To avoid confusion, Cheetah Chase was rethemed and renamed Sand Serpent. As the Timbuktu section was reimagined into Pantopia, the coaster became part of that area's lineup, providing a reliable family thrill alongside newer headliners like Falcon's Fury. Then in June 2023, Busch Gardens announced that Sand Serpent would close to make way for a new family coaster. Its final day of operation came on July 9, 2023, after nearly 2 decades in Tampa and 27 years of operation between both parks. Its replacement, Phoenix Rising, a family inverted coaster, opened in July 2024 on the same site, bringing a new chapter of thrills to Pantopia. The story of Busch Gardens Tampa Bay's roller coasters would be incomplete without Scorpion, the park's second coaster and a classic steel ride that spanned more than 4 decades. Opening on May 16, 1980, Scorpion was part of the newly created Timbuktu section, nestled between the Congo and Nairobi areas. Designed by Anton Schwarzkopf and engineered by Werner Stengel, the ride represented the park's early push to blend compact thrilling coasters with immersive themed areas. Scorpion was a Silver Arrow model, one of only 3 ever built and the only permanent version. Its 60-foot lift hill led riders into a 40-mile-per-hour drop, before diving into the coaster's signature vertical loop. From there, the ride twisted through bank turns and spiralling helixes, packing a lot of excitement into a compact layout. Each train carried 20 riders, 2 across in 2 rows, secured by a simple lap bar despite the included inversion. Upon opening, Scorpion quickly became a favourite among guests. Early reviews praised the intensity of the vertical loop and the gliding sensation of the drops, noting how Schwarzkopf's design managed to deliver thrilling moments with a small footprint. Its tight layout, banked curves and swift transitions gave riders a sense of continuous motion, and it quickly earned a reputation as a thrill-packed coaster within the park. Comparisons to Python, Busch Gardens' first steel coaster, highlighted Scorpion's unique blend of compact design and thrilling elements, making it a complement rather than a competitor. Over the years, Scorpion remained a cornerstone of the park's coaster lineup. In 2004, it received a fresh coat of paint, giving it a vibrant new look while maintaining its classic layout. Its location later became part of the Pantopia area, sharing space with newer attractions such as Falcon's Fury and, briefly, Phoenix Rising. For generations of guests, it was a rite of passage, offering an old and nostalgic charm. After 44 years of operation, Scorpion closed on September 8, 2024, marking the end of an era. At the time of its closure, it was the oldest operating roller coaster in the park, a testament to its enduring design and popularity. Though it has now been dismantled, Scorpion is still remembered for being a classic example of Schwarzkopf's precision and Busch Gardens' commitment to delivering both innovation and timeless thrills. From gentle family rides to ambitious thrill machines, the history of Busch Gardens Tampa is filled with attractions that came and went, each leaving behind memories for those who experienced them. While the skyline and pathways of the park continue to change, the stories of these vanished rides remain part of its legacy, a reminder of just how much the park has changed and how much it continues to evolve.